Hello, myself Sunil Ramakrishna. This is basically the 63rd number part basically of the PHP. So see basically functions of the PHP file. Assume we have text file called this stored on the server that looks like this. These all are basically the server basically, as example basically given by one of the website basically. Read file is the function name basically. So echo read file and the file name basically. So here basically they are reading the file and it's telling that basically function is useful if you want to open the file basically and read it content basically. Now basically we will go in detail of the open, read and close basically. So f open basically is the function basically to open the file basically. In this basically you can basically see the syntax of the f open basically, how basically the files basically are getting open basically. In this basically the first syntax is the read file name and the permission basically, it's the read permission. Read permission means you can only able to read basically the file. So like this basically f open, this is the basically the object basically, and from this object basically the file size is taken. If file size means this condition say that basically if it's there basically, or basically if it's anything basically contains into this basically. So read file and basically close the file basically. And it's echo also basically given. So here the functions are fread, fclose. Fread means it will read the file, fclose means it will close the file, but it will not open. When you are opening the PHP file, it is not opening the file basically. Opening the file means you can't basically see the file in the memory basically. You basically can't see the file in the memory. You basically just, it's a virtual way basically. In virtual way basically you are opening the file basically. In virtual way basically you are opening the file basically. In virtual way basically you are opening the file basically. So see basically in open file basically there are basically many permissions here. Read is there, write is there, A is there. A means open a file, for a write only existing, the preserve the create the new file does not exist. You can say as a append basically. X means create a new file, read or write only mode, open a read and write file. So file exists. If does not exist, then it will create the file. That basically stuffs are there. Open file basically read, A plus append, X plus basically creates the read file, return false if they so like this basically permissions basically are here. So one of the person told that what do you mean by permission basically? One of the person told the permission means, for example, one person basically is reading or sitting at the laptop and he basically was fired basically by the Mumbai city, and this permission basically was given by Mumbai and Gujarat basically. That person basically was sitting at the Gujarat. So this matrix basically generated. So like this basically on last day of world, this will be that number basically. So mark my word basically, on last day this will be the most important number basically. Next generation, who actually, next generation means Indian government basically has done the plan of next generation basically. And in this basically I am 100% sure basically the Indian ladies basically are going to play most important role on last day of world basically, because they plans the next generation basically. They plans the next generation, said what would be the next generation of, and you will not able to believe it basically, for next generation they do up to the level plan basically. Up to the level plan basically they do the next generation, for next generation basically. My generation basically does not exist. My marriage also basically has not happened, and my marriage is also not happening, second marriage basically. So the next generation basically, this number basically is going to play most important role on last day of world. You will remember me basically if I exist or not exist on this world basically. So one of the person told that exactly everything basically is connecting to the PHP. Why basically? Because PHP is connected with the .NET, PHP is connected with the C++, PHP is connected with the Java, PHP is connected with the COBOL, PHP is connected with the mainframe, PHP is connected with the Oracle PLSQL. PHP is connected everywhere basically. That's why basically I have taken the example of PHP. So one of the person told that PHP basically is connected with which government basically. So one of the person told that if one software basically is getting created, then each and every governments basically plays most important role. Why? Because it's a union, na, basically. If one person basically is not getting the job in PHP, that means union basically has came into picture. Union of Ram Mandir, union of Shiv Shankar God, union of Hindu, union of Muslim, union of Indian. So this will be that union on last day of world. This is most important basically. If anybody want to mark this or basically write down somewhere basically, you can write it down somewhere. So again back to read file. So read file basically say that we are basically going to read the file basically. It can be text file basically. So this basically say that we are reading the file basically, and by default basically it's a read mode basically. And this basically say that basically we are closing the file, but it's in memory basically. It's in memory basically. You are not opening the file, but it's in memory basically, not in front of you basically. So see basically, PHP read single line. So file basically has opened. Now basically if you have opened the file, that means you are going to do some manipulation. Without manipulation basically you are going to do some. Why basically you have opened the file? Then basically I want to read something basically. So you are reading the file, or basically you are going to update the file. So file manipulation basically comes this way only basically. I had taken one example before this basically file handling, that you are opening the notepad, you are doing something. This that only basically you are going to do through programming. So like this basically gets string basically. So you are reading the file basically. Single line basically you are going to read basically. After call the effect gets function, the file pointer has moved to the next line. See basically. So assume that basically here basically 10 lines of files are there. So once the file has read, so it will move to the next number of line basically. So your current pointer will be at second number basically. But you have closed the file. That means pointer has reset basically. But check end of file basically. End of file means has been reached to the end of file. So one of the person told that normally basically when you read the file, it reads only one line. But I want to read the entire end of file basically. So for that basically you have to go with the looping basically. So for that basically you have to add some manipulation. See basically. For that here basically it's given. While end of file basically doesn't happen until basically read the file. It will read single line basically. And if you want to read single character, then basically you have to read this line again basically one more loop and go with the end of character basically until basically the character does not end basically read up to that level. So you can basically go up to the level basically. See the character is also basically here basically the function is this basically f open, f get s, f get sc. But in .NET basically it's totally different basically. In Oracle PLSQL it's totally different. In Java basically it's totally different. So every programming language basically, here basically it might possible some syntax error might be there, some spelling mistake might be there. So in next video basically we are going to see it about